Greetings and welcome back. We are in Senior English A, and this is the continuation of the Troy tale as we began it yesterday. Just to remind, there's basically, for your notes, 3 parts to this, what we call Troy tale. Stories that are kind of taking place before the Iliad, stories of the Iliad, and then stories that follow the Iliad. Okay, so it's kind of a 3-part storyline. We call those stories before the Iliad pre-Iliadic stories because, of course, they come before the Iliad. Then we have the stories of the Iliad. Obviously, the Iliad serves as kind of the central poem in the Troy tale, right? Then you have those stories that we call post-Iliadic. The most important of those are, of course, Homer's Odyssey as well as Virgil's Aeneid. And then there's some other kind of stories thrown in as well. Yesterday we told most of the pre-Iliadic stories, what we often will refer to as the judgment of Paris and the killing or the sacrificing of Iphigenia. And then finally now we are at the walls of Troy itself. The Iliad opens, as I said yesterday, the Iliad opens with a fight, but it is a verbal fight. It's a contest between Achilles and Agamemnon, and maybe no big shock here, they're fighting over a girl. But let's point out, it's not a girl in the way we would think about, I really like her, no, I really like her. Not like that. This is rather about power. In other words, the girl is nothing more than a trophy. You've ever heard that phrase, trophy wife? It actually derives from this notion that a male wants a certain woman by his side or a certain woman that he can just simply have, any number of, experiences with or whatever. And it's got nothing to do with her. It has to do totally with him. Achilles gets in a fight with Agamemnon, and he gets so mad that he withdraws from the battle and he waits in the tent, pouting. They took my girl away. I'm not going to fight anymore in the war. Now, the way that the battle has been fought, I need to show you on my whiteboard. Allow for, and I apologize, I'm no artist. We have them in the family. I'm just not one. Allow for this square there to constitute as Troy. Okay, so that's the city of Troy. And then you've got a coastline that runs something like this, all right? And then all those thousands of ships are basically just moored on the beach. Do you got me? All right, and then they fight right here in the middle. And it looks kind of like the Badlands, that distance between Whirland, for example, and maybe Tensleep. That's kind of what the topography looks like. Achilles is sitting in a little tent way up here, all right? And he kind of, hears about the battles or whatever, okay? Now, at the pivotal moment in the Iliad, Patroclus is Achilles' best buddy, okay? Patroclus. Patroclus comes to Achilles and he says, look, there's issues here. The great warrior of the Trojans is named Hector, sometimes called the horse tamer, because he's great breaker of horses. Hector, he's this big, strong stud of a warrior from the city of Troy. Hector, because Achilles is out of the battle, has broken through on the southern end, and he has lit these ships on fire. They're all made of wood. And a breeze has come up, and it's starting to blow all the ships away. And Patroclus comes to Achilles and says, dude, we got problems. And Achilles is like, I don't care, they took my girl. And Patroclus is like, okay, look, I know you don't want to fight, but how about this? How about if I fight as you? And Achilles is like, how are you going to do that? He says, simple. You wear armor. So I'm going to put your armor on, including what you wear over your face. When I step out of the tent, all of the Trojans are going to think you've entered the war, and they're going to run away and go back to Troy, and we'll be able to solve our problem with all our ships burning up, because hello, we got to have a way to get back home. And the Greeks are going to think you re-entered the war, and the Greeks are going to be like, yay, our hero, and they're going to be ready to go back and fight some more. Achilles agrees to this on one condition. He says, look, when you step out of that tent, people are going to think that, you are me, and the Trojans are going to run. You're going to be like, boo, and they're all going to run. Whatever you do, don't chase them into the field of battle. Just come out of the tent, let everybody think Achilles has come back into the war, and off we go. Now, let's make a note really quickly about who this Achilles cat is and why he is such a stud in the mythology. You can't find a fighter warrior much like Achilles, but there's a reason for that. Achilles is only part human. Zeus is actually his daddy. Zeus does this kind of thing. He comes out of Mount Olympus, he sleeps with women, etc. But the mother of Achilles wants Achilles to be fully immortal. So she takes him down into the underworld, and she takes his little body as an infant, and she dips him in a special river down in the underworld called Hades, the river Styx, and she dips him down into this river so that he's completely covered in like a Teflon coating. So he actually does see the arrow coming at him. It just kind of sticks in him, and then he just pulls it out. It doesn't kill him. He doesn't bleed or anything. To that degree, people see Achilles as basically undefeatable. I mean, you can't beat the guy, all right? So Achilles will allow Patroclus to take this armor. Well, he does it. Patroclus steps out into the battlefield, and immediately all of the Trojans, they just run away. Run away, run away. They go back to the city of Troy, except for Hector. Hector figures, dude, if I gotta die, I might as well die fighting against the greatest warrior of all time, Achilles. And so you have a famous battle between who he thinks is Achilles and Hector. It doesn't take Hector long to defeat Patroclus. Patroclus is no fighter like Achilles. And then Hector does the unthinkable. He takes the helmet off, and he immediately realizes that this ain't Achilles, and he's outraged. He takes the armor that Patroclus is wearing off. Hector puts the armor on. He then takes the naked body of Patroclus' corpse. He hooks it behind a chariot, and he drives his chariot, pulling that dead body, all over the battlefield in front of the Greek soldiers. And then he turns dogs loose on the body. Messenger comes back to Achilles later in the afternoon. Achilles is like, dude, where's Patroclus? He's kind of like dead. Where's my armor? The guy that killed him's wearing it. Where is Patroclus' body? It's kind of butterfingers for wild dogs now on the back of a chariot getting chomped on. So here we go. This sets up now the major contest of the Iliad, where Achilles is absolutely outraged at Hector. And Hector's got to go to his wife that night and say, you know, tomorrow I got to fight against Achilles. The way that this scene sets up is kind of interesting. Hector's in full body armor. He walks into his wife in a motif or a type that is going to be recapitulated in film and in movies and in plays over and over again. Hector comes in front of his wife and says something like this: I am a man. Men were born to fight. Men were born to die. Tomorrow I go to fight Achilles. Tomorrow I go to die. And she says, oh, but you can't go and fight. What about me? Think about me. Surely you know that I love you. Okay, Hector, I am a man. Men were born to fight. Men were born to die. Hector's wife tries to talk him out of it because she kind of has a gut feeling that's probably not going to go really well with Achilles tomorrow. And so she takes their little boy and she holds their little boy up in front of Hector. The only problem is Hector's like in full body armor with a helmet and everything, and the little boy gets like really freaked out and starts crying until Hector takes off his helmet, and then the little son recognizes that it's Hector, and you have this powerful moment of pathos. Hector knows he's going to get bunged tomorrow. He knows it. It's not like there's any doubt about it. And the next morning, sure enough, Achilles is ready to meet Hector in front of the walls of Troy, and he calls him out. Okay? And it's kind of like, you know, funny, the doors of the city open, they shove Hector outside, the doors shut, and there he is standing basically all by himself, and then all the Trojans are at the top of those walls kind of looking over going, yay, our hero, best of luck. It's at this point that Hector realizes that maybe he doesn't want to fight Achilles, and are you ready for this? The great warrior of the Trojans actually runs. No kidding, he runs. He kind of starts running away. And then at a pivotal moment, and now I'm with you in your hymnal on page 77. We'll look at this from book 22 of the Iliad. In a pivotal moment, Hector decides, you know what? I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this running thing anymore. It's like he mans up, if you will, and he's ready to go to work. And he decides he's going to need to have a conversation with Achilles before they fight. Okay? So this is the famous... Now, some of you will immediately at 3a make the observation that this looks and sounds kind of like Beowulf and the Beowulf epic. A few hundred years later, the Beowulf epic will be transcribed, written. And you have something very similar. Before we fight, we always have to have some words. Guys have to talk before they start whacking away on each other, okay? It's kind of a standard protocol in the literature. So here we are from book 22, and when at last the two men faced each other, Hector was the first to speak, and he says, okay, take a look at this. I will no longer fear you as before, son of Peleus. By the way, point out for your notes that in the Iliad, we're always interested in who your father is as well. Here, of course, the father of Achilles is Peleus. Though I ran from you round Priam's town, Priam the king of Troy, 3 times and could not face you, now my soul would have me stand and fight, whether I kill you or am killed. So come, we'll summon gods here as our witness, none higher arbiters of a pact. I swear that terrible as you are, I'll not insult your corpse should Zeus allow me victory in the end or life as prize. In other words, what's he saying? If I kill you, right, I'm not going to do this nasty thing I did to Patroclus, your best friend. I'm not going to do that. Now, why would Hector make an agreement like that? What's he hoping for?
Same thing.
Yeah, right. He's hoping for a reciprocal kind of, treatment. In other words, if I get bunged by you, let's make a deal that you're not going to, do this thing, dragging my naked corpse around and letting dogs chomp on him. Notice he continues. Once I have your gear. Now this is interesting, and there's a very ancient kind of motif here, where when you fight, once you defeat your enemy, you take something from your enemy. Now sometimes this can be the enemy's gear, their weaponry. Sometimes it can be body parts. So for those of you who are maybe familiar with certain kinds of warriors, in certain warrior traditions where you took body parts, maybe you took the scalp, or you took the ears, or any number of other body parts. This is all part of a very ancient code where when you fight, you always have to take something from the enemy. And he's telling him in advance, I'll take your gear, I'll take your armor. By the way, Achilles had a problem the night before this fight because he didn't have any armor. Remember? Patroclus wore his armor and Hector stole it. And so his mama is called upon to go and to get new armor. And the new armor is actually made for him by Hephaestus. Vulcan is the Latinate name. Hephaestus is the smithy god. He's the god of fire and making of weapons and stuff like that. So actually Achilles has new armor as he has it in front of him. Once I have your gear, I'll give your body back to the Achaeans. The Achaeans is just another word for the Greeks. Grant me to this grace. In other words, you have Hector trying to kind of make an agreement here. Let's make a deal, shall we? If I lose, you're going to be nice to my body and just take my armor, which of course is really your armor that I stole. This kind of thing, right? Now, Achilles' turn to talk. Achilles is not a man of many words. And you will see, when he speaks, he's pretty direct and to the point. Notice we're told he is swift Achilles. What defines Achilles is not so much his massive size, but he has tremendous speed and strength. That is to say, he can defeat warriors much bigger than him, frankly, because he's just faster than them and quicker than them with weaponry. And it helps that he can't be wounded, right? Notice swift Achilles frowned at him and said, here we go. Hector, I'll have no talk of pacts with you forever, unforgiven as you are. Whoa, 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 what did he just say? Yeah, no, we ain't making no pacts. No compromises, no agreements here, because you are forever unforgiven. This line, unforgiven, is an interesting one, this word. For those of you who maybe don't know Clint Eastwood's cowboy film, Unforgiven, if you've not seen that film, it won an Academy Award, and it plays off of some similar themes as we see them right here. Achilles says, never, forever, never forgiven. I will never, ever forgive what it is that you have done. Keep going. And then he uses a series of similes or comparisons using like or as. Watch this. As between men and lions there are none, no peace, No concord between wolves and sheep, but all hold one another hateful through and through. So there can be no courtesy between us, no sworn truce, till one of us is down and glutting with his blood the war god Ares. I'm not just going to kill you. I'm going to take all of the blood inside of you out of you, and I'm going to put it all over me. Okay? So here again, we get kind of a sense of the way battles used to get fought. You don't just kill the guy, you have to humiliate the body of the guy. Okay? And this is all part of the taunting of war, and etc., etc. Keep going. Summon up your skills you have. By God, you'd better be a better spearman and a fighter. Now there's no way out. Pallas Athena will have the upper hand of you. The weapon belongs to me. I'll pay the reckoning in full for all the pain my men have borne who met death by your spear. Yeah, but wait a minute. Why did they meet death by his spear? Why did all of the Greeks die from Hector? He killed a bunch of Greeks, but how come? Who was not defending them? Why was he in the tent? You can kind of see the ironies here. They kind of start to build, right? Achilles is the epic hero of this text. And he wants to be, our textbook obviously, wants you to compare him to Beowulf. And yet the obvious questions will be, are they similar as epic heroes? Before there's Beowulf, there is Achilles, and Achilles will now fight. Well, to be honest, the fight doesn't take long. Achilles will defeat Hector. Interestingly, the reason is because Hector's wearing Achilles' armor. Think about this. You can be the most amazing athlete and defeat anybody, but the athlete himself or herself knows what his or her greatest weakness is, right? Nobody else maybe doesn't know, but the athlete himself or herself knows. Achilles looks at Patroclus or at Hector, sees that he's wearing his old armor and realizes they ain't but one place that's vulnerable under the arm, and it doesn't take Achilles long to be able to defeat Hector. The death of Hector leads then to the massacre of the body, etc., etc. The Iliad ends with a very interesting moment. Achilles has the body, the corpse of Hector, in his tent, where every once in a while, if he wants to, he can just walk over and kick on it or whatever, you see, because he's still mad. Under cover of night, are you ready for this? Under cover of night, the king of the city of Troy, Priam, the father of Hector, sneaks into the Greek camp and comes walking into Achilles' tent. No kidding. The old man falls down on his knees and says, I know you could kill me right now and this war would be over. I know that. But here's the thing. I love my boy, and I want to be able to bury his body right. Will you give me the body of my son back to me so I can bury him correctly? It's in a strange moment. Achilles' rage softens for a second. And it's in a strange moment that Achilles recognizes a moment of pathos, we call it, pity. And he returns the body of Hector back to Priam, and as well Priam will return the body of Patroclus back to Achilles. And then we end the Iliad with two burials. We're told that they put them on a funeral pyre and they burn their bodies. And that's how the Iliad ends. The Iliad does not end with the end of the war. Now that's fascinating. Troy doesn't fall in the Iliad. We have to wait to hear about that story from post-Iliadic stories. The place we go to find the fall of Troy is in fact the Aeneid, Virgil's poem, the Aeneid. Now Virgil is a Roman poet. And this will be written many years later. And Virgil will tell this story. First of all, the Trojans are in a bad way. They've lost their greatest warrior, Hector, but they still have their city. One morning, Paris comes out from his bedroom where he's been doing homework, and he walks along the top of the battlements, and he takes a bow and arrow set, and he shoots it into the air. Achilles sees it coming, the arrow, like he's seen 1,000,000,000 arrows before. He doesn't think anything of that. And all of a sudden, the arrow sticks right into his ankle. And for the very first time in his life, this amazing warrior feels pain. Like, oh, whoa, what is that? And he looks down at his ankle and blood is coming out. Remember I told you that his mama dipped him in the river Styx? She held on to his ankle. And when she pulled him back out, she didn't switch ankles and dip him a second time. He has one vulnerable spot, and it's where that Teflon coating of the river Styx didn't touch him. And that's where the arrow finds him. Are you ready for this? The greatest warrior of all time dies from an arrow to his ankle. And immediately he bleeds to death. Of course, later we will call this area the Achilles tendon or Achilles heel. And we will metaphorically talk about an Achilles heel as a weakness you don't know, correct? A weakness that you don't know. You're like, oh, whoa, I didn't know that was my weakness. And then bam, and then it's over. When Achilles is gone and dead, the Trojans have lost their Hector, the Greeks have lost their Achilles, and it kind of looks like the war after 10 years is a basic stalemate. It's at this point that the great warrior Odysseus comes up with a plan. He says, let's cheat. Let's cheat to win. The way we're going to do this is we'll build a large wooden horse. And about 250 of us are going to sneak up inside this horse. We're going to sit there. We're going to leave a really good liar outside of the horse, and then we're all going to get in our ships and sail away. The Trojans are going to come out of the city. The liar, the guy chained to the horse, is going to lie. And he's going to say, the Greeks have quit. And this horse is their good luck sacrifice to go home. The Trojans, Odysseus says, are stupid. They'll push the horse inside of the city because they want the good luck. Under cover of night, all of our ships will turn around and come back. We'll come out of the horse because all the Trojans will be party-hardying and they won't even know that we're there. We'll come out, we'll open the doors, we'll slaughter all of them, we'll win. Now this ain't in the story, but I kind of often imagine that, Odysseus is giving this idea in front of all the Greek troops, and some soldier of the Greeks raises his hand. Odysseus, sir, question. Yeah, question, go. We're going to build a large wooden horse. Right, large wooden horse. And 250 of us are going to crawl up inside of the horse. Right, inside of the horse. And then we're going to tell the Trojans it's a sacrifice. Right, sacrifice. Don't normally sacrifices get burned? Right, burned. I don't know exactly how Odysseus does it, but he convinces 250 bad guys, including himself, to come inside this horse. Of course, this horse will become called, metaphorically, the Trojan horse. Anytime that you send someone inside or something inside of the enemy lines and they don't know that it's coming, we kind of call this the Trojan horse method of fighting, right? It's cheating, basically, but it works. And sure enough, boy, oh boy, the Trojans party hardy that night. And because they pushed the horse inside the city. Virgil tells us that they have to tear down part of their walls to get it inside of the city, and that's what they do. Dumb, real dumb. There is one woman. Her name is Cassandra. And Cassandra, she's a very special woman. She has been blessed by the gods and cursed by the gods. The blessing is she always tells the truth. She can see the future. She always tells the truth. Her curse is nobody believes her. She comes out of the city of Troy and she immediately looks at the horse and she's like, you guys, there's lots of bad guys inside the horse. Don't push it in our city. And somebody says, gag her and shut her up. Sure enough, that's exactly what happens. Under cover of night, the Greeks come back. The guys inside of the horse come out. They open the doors, and it's terrible, terrible slaughter. I mean, terrible. They set the city first on fire. They find all of the children they can find, and they're killing them. There's just terrible, terrible slaughter. The old man, the king Priam, we're told, he and his wife Hecuba realize the city is falling, and they try to get away. And the way they get away is to try and run towards the harbor to sail away. And one of the great Greek warriors is named Pyrrhus. We're told he's wearing black armor, and he's completely covered in blood and guts because he's been killing so many people. He's got this huge sword. We're told that he's so enraged, angered by waiting 10 years to slaughter all these people. His eyes are red. For those of you who know the Terminator story, you now know the origin of this kind of monster. And he sees old man Priam, and he screams at him, Priam! And Priam gets kind of scared, we're told, like a rabbit. And he turns and he runs down a little street. It's a dead-end street. And he and Hecuba are at the end of the street when Pyrrhus turns and starts coming down towards them. Old man Priam falls on his knees and starts begging for his life. Hecuba, standing behind him, starts to weep and cry and beg for her husband's life. Pyrrhus, we're told, takes his sword, goes up over, and comes right down on the top of Priam's head. But right before the blade is to hit his head, he stops. And we're told the entire city of Troy goes dead silent for a split second. And through the mind of old man Priam, the king of Troy, there's a memory. A memory? A memory of a night long ago when a son of his was born. And an old blind prophet came into the room and said, "You better kill that kid, or your city will be destroyed." That's the thought in Priam's mind as it goes across. And then Pyrrhus just splits his head open like a cantaloupe, and off goes Hecuba, and that's the end of the king of Troy, the great King Priam. There is one warrior of the Trojans. He is a mighty warrior. His name is Aeneas. And Aeneas that evening did not go to sleep party-hardying. He went to sleep in his armor because he's a great warrior. And when he hears the city in an uproar, he immediately realizes that something has happened and the Greeks have come back and gotten inside of the city. And he gets ready to go and fight. But the gods come to him, and the messenger god Mercury, Hermes in the Greek, and says, "No, it's too late. The city is over. It's going to fall. You need to take your wife and your old father, and you need to leave and get out of here." And after a bit of time, Aeneas decides that's what he's going to do. And we're told he takes his old man, and he throws him over his shoulder, and he grabs his wife's hand, and he go running through the city of Troy. And of course, it's just chaos and smoke and fire, and people are dying, etc. And at one point, their hands, he and his wife's hands break. The grip. And he goes for a little while and he turns around and she's frozen in fear and she's just kind of standing there. And he's like, come on, I can see the ships. Come on, we got to go. And he goes a little bit further and he turns around and he can still see her kind of standing there. He's like, come on. And then he gets all the way to the ship with his old man. He puts his old man inside of the ship. He looks back. She's gone. He goes, bummer. Gets in the ship and he sails away. That's Aeneas. Aeneas in the story of the Aeneid, as told by Virgil, is a famous hero. He first sails down to North Africa to a place called Carthage, where he meets a beautiful queen named Dido. Now, this is a very famous love story in mythology. Dido is single, but she's the queen. And when she sees Aeneas, she's like, whoa. And so Aeneas makes promises to her. I'll marry you if you'll be my girl. And so she does. She sleeps with him and all of that. And they're going to get married. The night before they're going to get married, the messenger comes to Aeneas and he's like, dude, what are you doing? You're not going to get married. You have a life to live. You need to leave because you're going to go away and found a great people called the Romans in a famous country called Italy. Get in your ship and sail away. He does it, and as he's leaving the harbor, news comes to him that the scream that he heard was Dido, who, because she realizes that her guy is about to leave, stabs herself as she falls or jumps into her own funeral pyre. Aeneas sails away, goes to the place that we today call Italy, where he has a series of adventures. One of those adventures is he's required to go into the underworld to find out his future. In the underworld, he actually sees Dido again. She doesn't want to talk to him. She's mad at him. And ultimately, Aeneas is the founder of the great Roman people, which, if you'll think about it, is kind of funny. Because who defeats the Greeks in the history of the world? The Romans do. Virgil rewrites the story so that the Trojan War is not actually won by the Greeks. Right? Because the hero of Troy was Aeneas. Aeneas becomes the first Roman. The Romans ultimately defeat the Greeks. Who wins the Trojan War? Troy. Ultimately Troy, or the Romans do. So Virgil rewrites history, if you will. The final stories of post-Iliadic, of course, the story of the Odyssey, Odysseus' return back to the island home of Ithaca. That's an important story. That one you kind of know. This one you don't know. The story of Agamemnon's homecoming. Now remember Aggie baby? What did he do to be able to go fight in the wars? He stuck that sword right through the heart. Well, great story. They line up all the girls. I told you this is how they do that, right? They line up all the girls and everyone gets to choose a girl. Agamemnon is to choose not first. In this case, it's going to be Menelaus. Menelaus is going down the line first. Not to choose a girl, but to find his wife Helen. The woman who's responsible for all this chaos. He has said it many times during the 10 years. When I finally get her, I'm going to kill her. I'm so mad. He's walking down, looking in the faces of all of the women. Of course, the question is, it's been 10 years since he's seen his wife Helen, the most beautiful woman in the world. And he's like, I wonder if she'll look the same. I don't know if she'll even, will I be able to recognize her? Maybe she's died. Maybe she died in the fight, yesterday, etc. He's going down. One woman has her head down. And he says, you, raise your head. And when she looks up, it's Helen. And she says, hi, Menelaus. And he has his sword and he's going to like draw it to kill her, and he can't do it. The minute that she smiles at him, maybe she gave him a little wink or something. And Menelaus does this. He goes, and he slaps her. And he goes, don't ever do it again. Get in a boat. And they go back to Sparta and they live happily ever after.
10-year war.
The second, 10-year war. That's right. The next guy coming through is Agamemnon. Remember the last time we played this game, it didn't work out very well for Agamemnon. He chose Chryses and we had problems, remember? He's going to pick the best looking girl, and he's walking through the line, and all of a sudden he looks right into the eyes of a girl, and she goes, uh-oh, you better not ever go home. If you go home, you're going to get killed.
Oh, it's that one girl.
It's Cassandra. Remember Cassandra? She always tells the truth, but nobody believes her. Agamemnon goes, she'll do, gag her, put her on the boat. All the way back home, Agamemnon, every time her gag comes off, she starts screaming, we're all going to die, we're all going to die. Agamemnon shouldn't go home. He won't listen. Clytemnestra, the wife of Agamemnon, the mother of Iphigenia, remember, she's the one that got knifed. She's waiting for him at the side of the harbor with a slinky dress on. She has a red carpet from the palace all the way down. And when he arrives, she says, oh, I'm so glad you're home. You have no idea what I want to do to your body. Agamemnon, typical guy, right? Agamemnon, yes, it's good to be the king. And immediately the gag falls off of Cassandra, and she goes, uh-oh, that's the one? She's going to kill us all. Agamemnon, gag her and bring her with us. Into the castles, and Clytemnestra says, I really want to do some amazing things to your body, but first, would you like to eat? He's like, yeah, I'll eat. She sneaks out of the room while he's eating. She comes back in, the doors are all locked. She's carrying an axe. While he's eating,
Chops him up with an axe.
right in the back, she snaps his spine in half, but she won't kill him. Then she starts cutting off body parts, but she won't kill him. For hours, Agamemnon screaming in pain. Nobody can come in and help because the doors are all locked. Poor Cassandra gets jacked as well. We knew that was coming. The homecoming of Agamemnon doesn't go very well. Finally, the homecoming of Odysseus. You know the story well. The bad guys who want to marry Penelope, Odysseus' wife, and take over everything that's his. Odysseus has a son, Telemachus, who first of all goes away to Sparta and asks about Odysseus. It's been 20 years since the fighting at the walls of Troy. 10 years after the fall of Troy, Odysseus still hasn't returned. Telemachus asks Menelaus, where's my dad? I really don't know. The rumors are he's dead. Telemachus comes back, and by this point, Odysseus has been reunited to Ithaca, and they meet. Odysseus has had a terrible 10 years. He's had all kinds of adventures, and he never can come home. Granted, he's had the experiences of one or two, how should one say it? Acquaintances. Ultimately, of course, Odysseus will win by shooting that arrow through all those axe heads, right, that have been set up as the competition. You heard this story when you were a freshman. And ultimately, Odysseus is reunited with Penelope. Odysseus, who has spent any number of years with other women, the first question he asks his wife is, you mess around on me? No, I would never mess around. Good, because if you did, I'd kill you. Now, Odysseus can mess around all he wants to, but Penelope can't. That's the rules. Guys are asking, where are those girls today? It's a different time, right? It's a different time. Right, it's a different time. It's a different time. So there you go, the Troy tale, guys. Thank you very much.